welcome to an AVForums short video overview of the topping D900 digital to analog converter. My name is Ed Selly, I'm the hi-fi editor for AVForums. The D900 is a fascinating product, probably one of the more interesting things I'm going to test this year, and I say that relatively early on in the year. Why do I say that? This product is both technically interesting and there's a certain element of bravery to topping building it. Now we'll cover the bravery bit in due course because that's subjective. Let's do the objective bits first. This is the flagship of the topping range. It's £1,900, which when we take into account what the company is selling the bulk of their product output for, is quite a lot of money. But it is quite a lot of DAC. Unlike the products that we've looked at from topping up to this point, which have generally made use of ESS or AKM DACs, the decoding hardware inside the D900 is absolutely bespoke. Topping calls it PSRM, and my word, there's a lot of information on the website about it. I am not even going to try to sort of unpick that within the context of a 10-minute video. Suffice to say that there is a logic array and a voltage reference system that uses an approach related to, but not exactly the same as an R2R DAC. It is entirely bespoke. There's no fronted DAC doing sort of bespoke outputs, and it's different again to something like what Chord is up to with their FPGAs. And the process that it runs to allows for decoding PCM to 768 kilohertz, DSD to 512, which is broadly speaking in line with state of the art. And it is accompanied by measurements which both, according to topping themselves and from third-party independent measurements, are near to the defined state of the art as makes no difference. Different manufacturers chase different gremlins when they're doing bespoke decoding, so making a direct comparison between what topping has done and Chord Electronics is doing or what DCS is doing is sort of irrelevant. They have different bugbears, they're chasing different problems, and their solutions to those problems are going to be different. Nevertheless, you are buying something which has no parts in common with anything else outside the topping range. It's not the first time that this DAC has been used, but it's the most extensive implementation of it so far. You get plenty of connections, 2 optical, 2 coaxial, AES for fans of the connection, USB on 2 separate connections, which is handy. And an I2S connection. I am tremendously annoyed that I haven't been able to test that. I've got the Eversolo T8 here. I was all keyed up to do it. Unfortunately, the realities of moving house and not moving house where I thought I was going to move house and various other dramas which I won't concern you with have precluded me from testing it. But nevertheless, you've got that connection there if you want it, and that offers the scope for very high performance indeed. There's Bluetooth, because topping likes Bluetooth and they're very good at Bluetooth. And these connections are made available to both fixed and variable level XLR outs. If you want RCA, you're gonna have to use adapters, but it's perfectly happy running with them. I did very briefly test it. It's not a problem. And it sort of reflects that this is an all-in product. This is not, it's a different ethos to some of the more affordable things. It's as good as topping can basically do. Like a number of other topping products, you get access to the Topping Tune software. I won't pretend that I love Topping Tune. Part of my reservations about it stem from the fact that once it has been installed on my Mac, it was the very devil to get it to back off again. But the actual software itself is self-explanatory, easy to use, and it's extremely flexible. You get a front panel display which will show you various things that the DAC is up to. There's various adjustments there. You get a small but extremely solid remote control as part of the specification. I found this to be a little bit sluggish in response terms, but again, not the end of the world, and it's a useful thing to have. It's only fair to say I had some issues getting it to talk to both the Eversolo, which I was intending to use as the main point of contact for the topping, and a Chord Electronics 2Go and 2U combination streaming transport. It just put up a bit of a fight wanting to connect, basically, but we got there in the end. And once I had got it to connect to the Eversolo, I wasn't successful getting it to connect to the Chord Electronics. It has been unconditionally stable, so that's all good news. Whilst there are plenty of connections, it's worth pointing out, if you're looking at this and going, well, where's the headphone socket? The headphone sockets, plural, are on a completely separate product, a matching all analog headphone amplifier. Unlike a number of the more affordable designs, Topping has taken the decision to split them into two categories. Now, from my perspective, where I don't necessarily always use the point of digital decoding as a headphone amplifier, that's neither here nor there. I don't think it's a problem, but I dare say that a few people watching this will be a little bit disappointed that there isn't at least one socket to be cracking on with in that regard. However, that's the design decision, and it almost certainly does make the D900 more affordable than would otherwise be the case. It's beautifully made. It's not that large, but the standard build and finish is extremely good. What I admire about this is that as a flagship product, Topping could have gone a bit over the top. There could have been unnecessary ornamentation, detail. They could have fluffed up the casework to make it look bigger and mightier. They haven't. It's a very understated, very clean, very elegant product, and I really like it. I like it more because of how it sounds. There are all sorts of arguments, hours and hours of it on YouTube, thousands of pages online, from people arguing over the basic premise of whether there's any benefit to doing this sort of Gilded Lily style decoding, even going to the effort of putting two ESS DACs in something. I have spent a fair bit of time with both the Topping, and I live with bespoke decoding from Chord Electronics. And I have to say, I think that there are reasons that can be identified in measurement but make their feelings, their presence known audibly in different ways that justifies the existence for products like this. There's a fairly extended bit of sonic description which I've done in writing on the review that accompanies this video, but there have been points with the D900 where it has simply found information and then relayed that information contextually in a way which, if you use the DX52, which is excellent, or indeed a number of other DACs, it's there, but it's just not as logical, as obvious, as sufficiently transparent that you stop listening to the product and you listen to what you're listening to. Critically, and ironically, I'm going to say this in both of the videos I'm recording today, you can't hear the cleverness at work. You don't sit there thinking, oh, well, that's the bespoke decoding and it's doing this, that, and the other. You're simply listening to it and thinking, crikey, that sounds like it should. And it's deeply, deeply impressive. Let's get back to that Bravery thing. Topping didn't need to build this. They have created a formidable reputation for themselves using off-the-shelf decoding hardware in cost-effective, flexible and imaginative ways. In some ways, building this product almost undermines some of the arguments some of the demonstrations they've been doing of their proficiency. The fact that they did it and they felt that they needed to is very admirable, because they could have just played it safe. No one would have been desperately offended if they'd done something involving multiple commercially available DACs or something similar to that. But they've gone and built something bespoke, and they've felt that there was more that their engineering approach had to give than was available from off-the-shelf parts. And they've done that on the understanding that it will make a number of their existing customers potentially a little bit annoyed, you know, that a company that they took to be free of nonsense, and I use the word nonsense because that's the word that I have often seen, has felt that there is a requirement to go bespoke. Now, it puts the D900 in some fairly select competition. These two products, as far as I'm concerned, remain as good as decoding gets under £2,000. and they are extremely different. I mean, even allowing for the absence of headphone socketry, this product does far more than this one does. But there are points, I have to say, where I still prefer listening to this one. It's just perhaps a presentation that I'm more used to as I live with the company's products a lot, but nevertheless, it does some genuinely extraordinary things. But this joins a very select group of products that are able to keep the cutest honest, and it does it whilst offering balanced connections, preamp functionality, more inputs. So, you know, it is genuinely impressive what it does. There is a long and involved review for it on the website on avforums.com, and spoiler alert, it is awarded one of our rarest badges, which is a reference status badge, because what it does is serve to act as a reference to what is possible at the budget. And I think it is spectacular, and it's a tremendous addition to decoding and a tremendous demonstration that Topping still has an awful lot more to give as a company. I think it's going to generate some lively discourse online. It may generate some lively discourse underneath this review. I have no idea. But nevertheless, it exists, and we should be very, very glad that it does. If you've enjoyed this little ramble through the Topping, thank you ever so much for sort of sitting through it. There will be more content, both from myself and my colleagues on AVForums. So all that is left for me to do is to thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Goodbye.